Oh, good evening. Welcome to Omnibroslive. I'm Omnidog from Omnidog's Vault. Tonight is the Omnis, and I'm joined by my co-host, Lou from Comics Guy 101.
Hey, everybody.
And Gabe loves 90s comics.
What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year, 2021.
Yay, F 2020. Good riddance. Good riddance. So, is there a small child in the background, so I should watch my language?
No, you're fine. I've got
headphones on. So you have to watch your language.
I have to watch my language.
Uh-oh. That shows the wrong show to do that.
Yeah, so this is the Omnis, and we have a wide variety of categories that we shrunk down to like 4, so the show wouldn't go 3 hours.
Man, do you remember that first year we did it, that we went 3-4 hours because we just kept piling on category after category after category?
And didn't one year we have a two-parter?
That was the first one.
What's that?
That was the first one.
Oh, the first one was the two-parter?
That's how I got introduced to you guys.
Okay, and you kept sending stuff in. That's right.
Yeah, Gabe was the one that he created a spreadsheet, and he passed it around the group and everything like that. We haven't done the spreadsheet for the group since then. It was just too much work.
And then, like 2018, we had to decipher Ryley's handwriting for the vote, and we got some wrong because we couldn't read his handwriting.
Jess, why don't you tell them real quick 2 things? For those that don't know, what is our lovely sponsor?
Our lovely sponsor is InStockTrades.com, where you get your collected editions up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. There's always a $50 gift card given away at the end of the month, courtesy of InStock Trades, which will be 30 days from now or whatever. It'll be the end of the month. And $50 or more in shipping gets you $50 or more in an order gets you free shipping, which is going to be important. When you watch Monday's show and you see the previews, you'll see how much is coming out for the week of January 6th. It's crazy, baby. You're going to want that free shipping from IST. Fabulous customer service, fabulous packaging. That's InStockTrades.com.
Great stuff, man. So for those that don't know, who wants to tell them what the Omnis are? We do this every single year. It's kind of like a thing.
So the Omnis are basically our show's versions of the Oscars. We have a list of a handful of categories, like Jess said, just a few. And we're just going to rattle off what our favorites of those categories were. And that's going to be the Omnis.
Sounds good. All right. Since it's Friday night, I don't think we want to be here all night. Let's just go ahead and start. The first category, crime comics, Ed Brubaker. All right, let's move on. What's the next one? I mean, really, it's Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. They released. I haven't read the second book that they've released this year, Reckless. I still haven't.
I haven't read that either.
But what was the first one, Jess? I forgot the name of it. It came out.
Summer and Pulp.
Pulp was fantastic. It's. I mean, they are so good. They just make it look easy at this point.
I'm getting totally ripped apart by T-Lar Blunt and Taylorly Brune because I was supposed to have a super friends chat with him tonight, and Patty said no last night, and so I told them no, and then tonight you guys said you were doing a show, and she went out to deliver cookies, and I said, "Oh, can I do Omnibros?" And she said, "Oh, sure." And now they're both ripping me apart of what a shitty friend I am.
Hi, Ryley.
What's up?
What's up, Ryley?
Everybody, it's the Omnibus Collector. Say what's up.
The Omnibus Collector.
We just went through the crime category, and it was Ed Brubaker. Shocking.
That took 2 seconds.
So best creator.
Well, originally we were talking about just calling it the Ed Brubaker Award, and then pick our favorite Ed Brubaker book of the year.
So, were you looking at Pulp, or did you like Reckless, or maybe you liked one of his new collected editions, like the third Criminal hardcover, or
Yes.
Summer?
The answer is yes.
Yeah. I feel like maybe that should actually, this is a good idea. In the future, we should do the Ed Brubaker Award, but it can be rewarded to anyone but Ed Brubaker, and it's basically the award for excellence in crime or noir or something like that.
You know what?
Award for excellence in the field of excellence.
You know what I would actually give it to, and this is going to kill me, Matt Fraction.
For what?
November.
Oh, I still have to read that. Taylor Brown read Adventure Man and said it was awful.
Yeah, that's Matt Fraction. But a broken clock strikes twice a day. So, and even that horse, the last horse is going to cross the finish line at some point. So, and Matt Fraction crossed the finish line with November for me.
Well, wait, what else didn't Ed Brubaker also do those little vignettes? Was it Bad Weekend or All My Heroes Are Junkies? Was that this year?
I think those were previous years, but Bad Weekend was also just issues of Criminal that were joined together with some extra material into a graphic novel.
Isn't he's doing Parker this year, right?
He is contributing friends to the Martini he's contributing stories to the Martini edition, volume 2. Yeah.
Well, there you go. From the Omnis 2021, Ed Brubaker takes it again for Parker. Whatever he puts in there, he's gonna get it. So,
what other crime books though? Like, if you can't say a Brubaker book, what other crime books would you say? I know you said Matt Fraction for November, and then I would say that the book I mentioned last week or something like that, that Texas Blood, that one's another really good crime series right now.
Sorry, I'm having two conversations. One with you guys and one with Tyler Blunt and Taylor Brown, and what a shitty person I am.
Oh.
Yeah, I was supposed to have a chat with them tonight. And Patty said no. And I said, okay. And then she went out to deliver cookies to friends. And she said, okay to this show. I told him I get paid for this show.
See, the chat was talking about the upcoming Omnipocalypse on Tuesday. I don't think it's as bad as previous.
I was surprised to hear you say that. It's a lot of books that are coming out.
There's 5 omnibus. Each of them has a variant.
Yeah.
So 10 omnibus. I think there's 1 Marvel Masterworks. There's like 3 Epic collections.
Yep.
And
Invaders oversized hardcover, Guardians of the Galaxy oversized hardcover,
and Eternals Kirby monster hardcover,
and another volume of Breasts Are My Favorite Thing.
Hey,
that was actually like I was talking with Emily, and that's the way I outlined it. I was like, because she goes, "Man, it's a big week next week," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And I looked at everything, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it looks like we got this, and a new volume of Breasts Are My Favorite Thing."
Brooks put that up on page for me, and a book for Jess. Breasts Are My Favorite Thing.
I saw that. I don't know anything about that book. I just think it's hilarious that it exists.
Oh yeah.
But I was talking. I sent a message to you guys, and I was saying I watched Omar break down the January releases, and I was surprised how little I'm looking to grab in January. I'm only looking at 2 books.
I like that.
Hey, this floor is clean.
I, for once in my life, have stacks on the floor, but it's because I'm too lazy to go back and put something at the top of my shelf at the moment.
I do have 1 stack on the floor.
I have a stack of like the Star Wars books from the video I made last week, and then I have a stack of I brought. There was 2 shelves that were in my upstairs like living room area, and I brought those in here and just brought all the books and put them in here, and then I haven't put them up on my shelves here yet. But then I got the announcement that I'm going to be moving out of this room and everything's going to go out there. So there was no point in me pulling those books in here in the first place.
Wait, you got the announcement that you're leaving that room?
Yeah, I will no longer be in this library. I will now have a much larger area.
Well, that's cool.
Nice,
so
dude.
all of my shelves will fit across a couple of walls. I've measured everything. It should fit just fine. And I'll have more room to just kind of spread out. So I might be able to have like a couch or something. And then in here, we're going to make this into the theater that it was designed to be, which is why this room has no windows. That's why this room has, you can see the panels, the blank faces. That's where the speakers are supposed to go. And then there's 2 more of them up here. So
it's supposed to be a media room?
there's supposed to be a TV on the wall opposite me. And then, so we're going to put a projector in here and have it project onto the wall. And then my wife wants to build some built-in shelves and have like a popcorn machine and a candy and all that stuff. So it looks like a little theater.
Oh, are you going to get dollar store candy and fill it up?
I hope so.
You like its floor is nice and sticky?
Yeah, I'm gonna rip out the carpet and actually no, I'm gonna get that really like generic theater carpeting that has like it's like dark blue with red lines and designs randomly over the place, and then we're gonna bolt down seats, and then under there's no carpet and it's just very sticky linoleum. That'll be the plan.
I think that's perfect.
That's the next draft house.
Yeah. I am in Texas, so Alamo Draft House makes sense.
Yeah. Serve all your food and beverages right there.
Well, what category are we talking about next before I interrupted?
Let's just go ahead and do best superhero book.
I can take part in best manga this year since I had so many mangas.
So best superhero book. Who wants to go first?
Best superhero book. Best superhero book.
I don't have anything to reference. Jonathan Hickman's X-Men, House of X and Powers of 10.
Did that come out this year?
I think I meant last year.
Damn it.
Was it at the? It might have ended at the beginning of this.
I was excited. But like the hardcover came out this year, right?
The hardcover came out in December of last
I'm
year.
really,
2019.
I am really surprised, Gabe, you didn't go for Venom.
I remember. I was really excited more for the X-Men stuff. I didn't realize that was, that was across the threshold. It was almost there.
I'm gonna go with, for me, Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad.
That was a good one.
That was the best superhero book for me this year. Awesome characters. It's only 11 issues, so it's really truncated, and he just absolutely nails everything about the Suicide Squad and how much fun that book can be when you have the right writer on spearheading that project. Right from the first issue, Tom Taylor pretty much tells you that he's not messing around with it, and that he's really taking this seriously, and he captures the spirit of what the Suicide Squad is.
Is that collected at all?
Not
You would
yet.
know. You get it digitally.
Digitally, I get it digitally.
How many issues is it?
It's 11 issues. It's coming out in a single hardcover. I was about to say this year sometime.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be deluxe edition, so I don't know if it's oversized or not, but it will be released.
Released this year.
DC's really backing up everything Suicide Squad. They're doing so much with the Suicide Squad. It's good to see that getting a good series. I can't remember the last time there was a good Suicide Squad series that I could think of.
The last time I really enjoyed it was, I think it was when Tim Seeley was writing for a little bit, and it had artwork, I think, from Juan Ferreira. That was really nice. That was the last time I really, really enjoyed Suicide Squad. And then after that, and before that, like it's just been really. it's usually just DC trying to sell the same team over and over again, but not getting it right, and different creators coming in and trying to do it, but not getting it right either. I think Matt Kent had a few good issues somewhere as well. But of course, they want to make sure they get it right at this point because we've got another movie coming out.
And a spinoff series.
And now Taylor's going over to Nightwing.
Is he?
Yeah, so I think he's kind of proven his chops over at DC with, because he was doing all the like Elseworld type stuff, Elseworld stuff that's not really Elseworld because it's not labeled that way, but like Injustice, and then he left Injustice, and then he came back to Injustice, and then he's been doing Deceased, and Deceased has 2 or 3 spin-offs that have happened, and now he's done this, finally, like an in-universe series, and now he's going to be doing the Nightwing series coming out. So hopefully that's, another step before getting to do Batman.
He's the guy that has really been cutting, like you said, he's really been cutting his teeth over the last few years, and I think this has just been like, okay, he's kind of finally hit his stride, I think, especially with this little 11-issue run.
Jess, did you have a superhero series that you wanted to?
Well, I didn't read. I haven't caught up on Tom King's Batman yet. I haven't read any of Bendis' Superman. I haven't caught up on any current. I haven't caught up on anything. I was going to start.
Okay.
But it's pretty much everything. I think Bendis' Batman universe was the best superhero book I read this year.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah. That was the best superhero book, and probably one of the only ones. Although Taylor and I read all of Superman Rebirth up to Bendis, like 100 issues, and that was great. But that was, 5 years ago or whatever.
So you read all the like Jean Luen Yang stuff that he did and Greg Pak's run and stuff?
Were they in Rebirth? That was the end of New 52.
Oh, yeah, I thought that you were talking about New 52. So you read everything Tomasi, Jurgens.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly that. Yeah. There was 4 Superman and 3 actions.
Yeah.
And we also read Final Days and Adventures of not Adventures of Lois and Clark. Lois and
I know which one you're talking about.
Lois and Clark. Was it called Adventures of Lois and Clark?
I don't remember exactly, but it's the miniseries that Jurgens wrote before.
Yeah. Superman, Lois and Clark.
Yeah. It's basically, it's funny because he writes the characters that book basically becomes the Tomasi series. And then Jurgens goes off and does his own thing.
Yeah. I think that Superman book was the best thing Dan Jurgens ever wrote. Lois, Superman and Lois book.
Well, mine, I'm gonna go. I know there's some people that have been a little bit not as positive on it as I have, but I was really happy with the X of Swords or 10 of Swords crossover from the X-Men books. I felt like that book was such a good X-Men, classic X-Men type of event, that it wasn't all just, action and punching and clawing and laser eyeing people. There was a lot more behind it that made it feel more like that classic 80s X-Men, and we had a lot of very like Excalibur type stuff that happens in there, to the point that even though Excalibur was one of the books that a lot of people are a lot more lukewarm about out of the entire Dawn of X line, I would say like it is probably one of the more important titles at this point, going into that crossover. So I really love the way that played out. It completely subverted any of my expectations. Completely did all kinds of stuff that I didn't expect it to do, and then played with these characters in really fun ways. It did do something that I expected to do about the whole nature of the resurrections in the books. So that was fun because it went in the direction that I was hoping it would with that stuff. So yeah, that crossover really did it for me. I'm looking forward for the hardcover.
That comes out at the end of the month, right?
Yeah, that's when it's due for now. As is always said, these dates can change. This upcoming week's not changing. You guys who are trying to get all 5 of those books, good luck. But but this week or this month, those things can change. But X of Swords is due out sometime this month.
I will tell you right now, it is coming out.
See, I find that interesting because I've heard nothing but like meh things about it. But if you love it and knowing you're a huge fan of X-Men, I might have to
coming out the 1 to 3rd week of January.
Well, I know I think like Omar has said he doesn't know how he feels about it, and I'm just like, I love it. Like I know exactly how I feel about this shit.
I bet I love it.
It's so like it's such a great culmination of a lot of what they were already doing, and it has a lot of it has heart, it has comedy, it has action. Like there's a whole just badass 2-part issue thing that has like Wolverine trying to get his sword, and then you have other stuff where it's like some of the fights that they have are not fights. It's like, a drinking game and stuff like that. And it's great because that's like the X-Men that I know. That's the fun X-Men that they tie that kind of stuff. It's like watching a serial drama on TV where like every once in a while you get those filler episodes where the C plot is not as serious as like the A plot. It's like watching, I don't know if you guys watched like Degrassi and stuff, but like Degrassi would do that a lot where like the A plot was like, Liberty finds out that she's pregnant, but in the B plot, one of the other kids is just like, has explosive diarrhea or something stupid like that. So like that's the type of shit that I enjoy, is like you balance the serious nature of some of the stuff with some of the less serious nature of some of the stuff that's going on. I will admit though that I'm not caught up. I'm like 5 weeks behind on reading, so I haven't read any of the Reign of X material just yet. But I'm looking forward to binging, I guess, a lot of that stuff at the same time. And I really wanted to mention this series also because I didn't want for like the umpteenth year in a row to just say the same books and say Hulk and Venom again, because obviously Hulk and Venom are still great. Oh, and Chris Cantwell's Iron Man series. Holy shit. That series.
Iron Man series?
The art on that is wow.
Yeah, Cafu is really great. His Iron Man series has been a lot of fun. It's really taking it back to kind of like the roots. And his Doom series that he started before Iron Man is also fantastic. It's just kind of hard for me to remember everything that's been going on this year because of the big delay that happened. A lot of stuff got pushed back, and so I'm like, I start forgetting like exactly what was going on in a lot of these books. Some things still haven't, like Black Panther still hasn't come back, and it has like 1 issue left or something.
Yeah, this was when I was coming up with my stuff. I was like, do I really just want to do Immortal Hulk again and Venom? Don't get me, they're amazing books. They're probably the best 2 books that Marvel has right now, if not in the top 5. But I was like, let's kind of share the love a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I also should have mentioned Superman Smashes the Klan.
Did you read that this year?
I did read that. That was that was back in the spring.
Yeah.
You guys keep dogging. Oh, you guys keep dogging on Immortal Hulk. That was gonna be my pick.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
No,
not dogging at all.
I just wanted to make sure that I said how great Superman Smashes the Klan was. I can't get into specific details like Ryley does about a book because I don't remember things as well as he does.
Dude, I'm getting there. It sucks. Like I'm gonna be honest.
I'm there. Yeah, I was talking to Jess about this the other day on the pre-show. That my memory isn't as sharp as it used to be.
What I only retain the knowledge of whatever book I just read, and that was a Star Wars book, and that will be pushed out by whatever I read next. Even though I can tell you all about the Superman Kryptonite Never No More series of my youth, I can't modern books just drop right out of my head. Superman Smashes the Klan was awesome.
That was perfect. I mean, it's perfect comics for me.
Yeah, it was great.
Uh,
I wonder if Omar's issue with Sword of Tens or whatever it is that he has so much X-Men knowledge, and I have so much less than he does. But I wonder if he expects certain things to happen and they don't happen, and he gets disappointed.
Yeah, you don't have the baggage that he does.
Yeah, and I can just read it, and I just go, "Whoa, this is cool," because I liked House of 10, Power of 10, and I thought it was great. I didn't have any expectations. I loved it all. And as soon as I get started on the Dawn of X books, I'm sure I'll love them. But I wonder if he maybe has too much knowledge where he's kind of weighed down by it. I don't know.
I think a lot of it is just the people, like in general, the expectation was it leads into this whole idea of like this big, like you're supposed to get a war out of it. And then instead of having a war, it's like there are some duels where there are times where, you know, one of the mutants will fight against one of the sword bearers of Araco. But a lot of it is, like I said, like there's one where it's literally people dancing, like it's a dance off. And
Awesome.
a lot of people might go into that and just be like, oh my God, this is so dumb. And it's that same, I feel like it's that same mentality of the people who are like upset when Marvel movies have a more lighthearted tone to them and have a lot of jokes and stuff. But it's like the X-Men books have always had that tongue-in-cheek humor, especially under the Claremont years, especially Excalibur, because Excalibur is such a is such a ridiculous like book, and it's basically Claremont going full English on people, if you will. To answer, I guess, Arya's left some nice comments, by the way. So I did see your comment on my video from last night, and I really appreciate you being an awesome, supportive subscriber on my channel. I think that there's 15 total paperbacks for the Dawn of X era, and I think that they'll separate this into 3 omnibus editions. That's my strong theory at the moment. So we'll see 3 similar-sized omnis, basically with the same mapping as those paperbacks, and it'll probably be the same designs as well. Like it'll be the white and then a gray and maybe a black or something like that have the same motif that they've used. So I just wanted to say that.
Do you think they'll do it like they did in the Dawn of X books, where it's 1s and 2s and 3s, or where they group them according to
I think it's just going to take the same map that they've been using in those paperbacks. So like whatever order they appear, because some of those paperbacks do or do not include certain issues. So it's like, it's not like after the first few, it's not like all of them have issue 4 of every series, because then you have new titles come out. So some of them will be missing an issue of 1, and then that'll come out in the other, and all that good stuff. But like we've been given the order at the back of every issue. They give you a breakdown of like the order that you should be reading everything in.
Oh, okay, good.
So real quick, since Immortal Hulk is
Yes.
I was gonna say, Gabe, I was gonna throw it to you on this one.
I was gonna say, like, here's something that we can all talk about, because I know we've all read it.
This was your choice.
This is my pick of the year. Yes, I do think you can jump right into Immortal Hulk without reading anything else. The only thing you really kind of need to know before jumping in is that, was it Civil War II? Yeah, Civil War II. Hulk dies. Okay, and then in what was it, Avengers crossover book that they did? He comes back to life. He comes back to life at one point, okay, in this Avengers storyline. That's all you really need to kind of grasp and understand. Other than that, jump right in. It's a completely different take. It's a very horror-based, spooky element take of the Hulk, where he can smell your fear. And they have it kind of old school Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, where he can only turn into the Hulk at night. So it's this really kind of great monster horror body. It turns into like a body horror thing. Like in volume 2, it gets really kind of gnarly. Lots of great stuff there. Lots of new ideas and elements. Ed Ewing is definitely like adding spokes to the tire, I guess you could say. He's really adding new elements and really getting something new and different out of Hulk. Because Hulk is one of my favorite characters for sure, but it's very hit and miss when you want to talk about good runs of the Hulk outside of Peter David. This is going to be the next one. That's going to be a must-read era of the Hulk for sure.
Yep, 100%. And if you want to know what happens in Civil War II, Ryley has a very nice video where he got drunk and summarized the entire plot of it for all of you out there.
That was the Omnibros episode.
I forgot how he died, right? He took an arrow from Hawkeye or something.
Yeah, Hawkeye, like, basically saw the glint of green in his eye and acted on impulse and just shot him right in the head before he turned into the Hulk. And it was something where, like, because then the whole world was like, fuck Hawkeye, and then Hawkeye was like, but Banner literally told me to do that. So that happened, and then it was in No Surrender, the Hand resurrects the Hulk, and so that's why he's kind of very different now than he was, because
you remember that we all read No Surrender together for this chance. I didn't remember that.
Well, there you go, Jess. The Hand resurrected the Hulk. And he's like a zombified version of himself, and then eventually he becomes more normalized, and he is the Immortal Hulk because at this point he can't die. He's regenerative. And I would also say you don't have to read anything Hulk before you read this. Because while it does utilize a lot of the old characters that you might be familiar with if you've been reading Hulk stuff, it also does a good job of kind of giving you that exposition on those characters so you don't feel completely lost. But I also enjoy stuff like this where a series, it dives deep into the lore of a character, teasing you just enough so you know what's going on and you understand it, but you also want to go read some of the other stuff. So it's like, oh man, like I really enjoyed seeing this character show up. I want to find out where else I can read about that character. And that happens a lot in this book because Al Ewing does a lot of, pulling from like essential Hulk storylines and classic storylines and stuff like that. So it's a lot of really cool stuff. It's also very much not referential of anything that happened in the past like decade of Hulk stories. Reaches further back, so it's like you don't really need to know what was happening with the Hulk in the past, with the Greg Pak runs, and you don't need to know about what happens in like the Jerry Dugan and Mark Waid and Jason Aaron stuff. It's older stuff.
Although all that stuff is really fun. You should seek that up.
That stuff is, there's a reason why I've got a whole Hulk shelf here.
It's really trying to get me to complete.
Oh yeah.
By buying all the trade.
All right. You guys ready to move on to the next one?
Let's do it. What we got up next, Lou?
We've got horror, my favorite category. I am going to throw the easy pick out there, and Something is Killing the Children.
And I agree with that.
Incredible. Fantastic. All the way through. Beautiful art, beautiful writing. If you are not reading, is that that's Boom, right? Is that Boom?
It's Boom. It's Boom, yeah.
Boom for me is this is the year, man, where Boom has just been, I don't know where they've been coming out with all these bangers because it's been on a roll from Boom this year.
Yeah, they are totally under the radar, and they're coming out with the heavy hitters.
They are what Image was to me years ago, where it was like, man, Image is really putting out hit after hit after hit, but it's Boom this year. And Something is Killing the Children is incredible all the way through.
One thing I really like about what Boom has been doing, and I'm going to admit I haven't read this series yet, but Boom has been not trying to flood the shelves. And I read a whole like article about or like an interview where they're talking about what their strategy is, and they're like, we don't want to try and just shotgun blast you
which is
so
what
many
Image is
books.
doing. Image is
Right.
doing that lately, and they've turned me off on a lot of their stuff.
Because it's too much stuff, and you can't keep up. And it's when you can't keep up, like even if you're not like, it's not just about the money; it's like about the time also. You can't keep up with how many books you'd have to read if you want to keep up with everything Image. But what Boom is doing is they'll launch a new series every month or so, and they focus everything into making sure that one series is as good as it can be, and they get the best team that they can get, the best writers, the best artists, and they just put everything behind that for that month that it's releasing. And so like a few months ago, I remember that was it Secret 7 or whatever by Tom Taylor. That was the one.
Secret 7.
Yeah, that's the one that they were pushing. Was that one, and it was like everywhere you looked, their ads, the house ads on everything was about that series. And they get you because it's not just, you know, an intriguing concept, but it's creators that you recognize. So they're making sure that they're using these creators, and you're like, oh man, I love Tom Taylor, or oh man, you know, I love Kieran Gillen was one of the other ones they had with the Once and Future was another big one.
Great title.
I want to commend Boom's strategy on not flooding the market and just giving us quality instead of quantity.
Yeah, that was the book that Jess turned me on to this year, and man, he was 100% spot on with that pick. It was so good. It's really something special.
Well, you're the one that was talking about something as killing the children first. You've been no, was it Jess?
Jess was with that for a while.
I must not have been on that show when you talked about it. I know it's when Lou was going on about it one day, and I was like, all right, I gotta go check out this book. And everybody's right. It's incredible, and it should be more spotlighted than what it is. Since it's not a Marvel or a DC book, and because Batman's not in it, it gets very little attention. But it's one of those special books that's coming out.
I turned Lou on to 2 books. Something is Killing the Children and Black Hammer.
Yes, that is true.
5 o'clock comics or whatever that episode that was one of my greater meltdowns when he said 11 o'clock comics was talking about Black Hammer. I was like, what?
So all three of you guys say the same book?
It might be one of my books of the year, not just horror. I mean, it's so well done. Yeah, it's going to be in my top 5.
For me, it combines everything I love about horror: the occult, monsters, badass female huntress, and it was like the book was written for me.
Yeah,
and the artist, Werther Delorado, whatever his name is, or whatever that name is, it's fantastic. It's like it's like a very sketchy, paintbrushy style. It's like a more refined. Yeah, that's great stuff. Wonderful looking stuff.
Yeah, it really is. What about you, Rai?
Well, I think the only one that really ever has been doing it for me it's still Ice Cream Man.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Ice Cream Man, because it's
never read it.
It's great. I'll go ahead and pitch it for you right now while I'm talking about why it's good. So the series is an anthology horror series, and I grew up loving anthology stuff, like watching shows like The Twilight Zone and X-Files to a lot of extent. Is the Golden Kirkman like a golden shower?
Whoa.
No, the Golden Kirkman Award is the award we give to the worst book of the year.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot about
the Golden Kirkman.
Okay, I
got choices. Jess and I have our picks though for the worst books of the year. We said them a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I got mine. I didn't hear you guys on the other show, so
right,
I don't remember what I decided on.
We'll do the Golden Kirkman after.
The Golden Kirkman. I totally forgot about Joe Cool. Thank you for that. Like, I totally forgot about that. And because of that, he deserves some Salma.
Yay!
So, what was okay? So, Ice Cream Man anthology horror series. Every issue is basically another short story horror very creative. And that's where this series really wins me over, is that as the series goes on, a lot of these issues become more and more creative in the way that they tell their stories. There was a palindrome issue where you can read it forwards or backwards, and it tells a story that's different. There's the Neapolitan story where it's like 3 different stories in one. You get 3 flavors in one. And there's always this overarching kind of sub-story about the Ice Cream Man and who he is and what he is, that you get little sprinkles, no puns intended, sprinkles of who the Ice Cream Man is throughout a lot of the different issues. And it just makes for something where, like, I never know what to expect when I'm going into an issue of Ice Cream Man, and it's always at least somewhat satisfying. Some of the issues are not absolute hits. They don't always hit as well as others, but it's always satisfying in some way, even if it's just seeing what kind of creative ideas that the creators are going to come up with in this new issue. I also really love the artwork. The artwork has this cartoony yet creepy vibe to it, which is just perfect for this idea. So if you enjoy stuff like I was saying, like Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that, where they're anthology horror, this is really something great that you'd really like. Yeah, Omar's talking about those Dr. Seuss variants. I love
those variants.
Those are cool.
Those were great.
I agree, and I think it reads even better collected because of that. There's sort of a string that goes through them, and I wouldn't remember to connect them monthly if I was reading monthly books, but since they're collected, and you're welcome, I bought like all 5 trades, so that's why it's an oversized hardcover. But collected, it reads really well with you being able to watch the string that goes through the whole thing together, and it makes for a really good read for me, since I have such a tendency to forget.
All right, you guys ready for the Golden Kirkman? Ladies and gentlemen, the Golden Kirkman is the award we give to the book that is the worst book of the year. I think this was an award that Jess came up with, I think, like a year. It's not spot on. That's not far from what he looks like, ladies and gentlemen.
Is this a book that we read this year, or is this a book we read this year, or that came out this year?
Read. It can be. It doesn't have to come out this year, but it's something you read this year that was just horrible.
Okay, well that's an easy one for me. But did you have one that you and I agreed on?
No. We talked about this like 2 weeks ago. What our choices were.
Okay.
My choice goes to James Tynion with what was that book, Ryley? The Conspiracy Inc. thing. I can't even remember the damn name.
The Department of Truth.
There we go. The Department of Shit. Okay, Tynion. We normally don't do this. I know he's a good writer. I know he is, because he's written some stuff that's really good.
We just went on crazy about something that's killing the children.
Yeah.
Yeah, same guy.
But Department of Truth is just not. It's not coming together, man. Maybe it's time to pack it in. Department of Truth is one of those books that I don't not like it. I just think it's boring, which to me is the greatest sin of a book. You can be bad and you can be good, but if you're boring me, that is the greatest sin. And I absolutely do not like the Department of Truth. It does nothing for me, and it's a great premise, which is what kills me. And if this was given to like a Grant Morrison, this would be the book of the year. If Grant Morrison was on something like this, and he was full on 90s, like sniffing paint Grant Morrison, this would be the book of the year. And to me, it's a waste of potential. And it kills me because I know that there's a good idea there.
Well, everybody that has, I don't want to go too far into it because I've said it so much, but Devin Grayson's User is the book I read this year. It was the last book that I poured root beer on, and the root beers came out of retirement to get poured on that book. It was so offensive. I had vowed never to root beer a book again, and Omnicat and I reviewed it, and she and I were so pissed off at that book. The way it portrays the non-consensual, even if it was consensual, it's underage rape of this girl in this book. and how the family of the girl does absolutely nothing about it, but seems to encourage it even, made it incredibly offensive to me. And I don't have it here to reference anymore because I did pour root beer on it, but I remember a lot. That's a really memorable book for me because it was so awful. And Devin Grayson should be completely ashamed of herself for writing that book. Should have never been published. I don't know how it won awards for some kind of.
It was so bad that Jess retired the root beer after that.
I pulled root beer out of retirement for it, like because they said, no more root beer. Creators do their best. Sometimes they miss, blah blah blah. And no, this was just. I had to pull the root beer out for this one. It was just awful. Just it was an assault on my sense of morality. Just wrong in every way.
Did you finish the book? I don't even remember if you finished it or not.
Yeah, she and I both finished it, and we were kind of excited. I said, "There's a book on my shelf that is supposed to be really good," and she said, "Oh, I can get that from the library." And I said, "Okay, good, let's read it." And she and I got on the show and hadn't discussed. This is Kristan, and we hadn't discussed it yet, and you could just see us both getting angrier and angrier as we talked about it. It got to the point where I don't even think Kristan wanted to talk about it anymore, and that's when I brought the root beer out. It was yeah.
Well, kind of backing up a little bit. I think what kills it for me for Tinian is that he's writing one of my favorite books, and simultaneously he's writing one of my worst books. He's writing something that's killing the children, which is fucking amazing, and he's writing Department of Truth, which I'm like, oh.
How many issues did you read of Department of Truth?
I got through 3 issues, because that's normally what I'll give a series. I'll give you 3 to 4 issues before I kind of drop it. I really do try to give the writer the chance. Yeah. And I couldn't get through it after that.
Okay. I haven't read it at all, so I don't know anything about
it. Gabe?
1, 2, 3 Jokers. Fuck that book.
Wow.
that was such the biggest buildup, and I was sold, and I think all of us were. And I'm not just talking about the 4 of us. I'm talking about everybody watching this was completely sold and enamored and biting and chomping at the bit for the idea of what this 3 Jokers idea, the concept was that they introduced at the end or at the beginning of Rebirth. No, actually, I'm sorry. It's
the end of New 52.
Yeah.
Dark Side War.
Yeah. So literally like the very last thing that they do in the New 52.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't read it because you guys, I didn't hear anything great except about the art, but I haven't read it. I'll probably rent it to read, but
I mean, it was just this huge buildup for the entire time of this Rebirth run has been
like
going
4
on.
years. 4 years to build up.
And it's always like hyped up, and it's happening. No, it's not happening. Oh, something happened. It's delayed, or there's a rewrite, or Jeff Johns is being a jerk to Cyborg on the JLA movie, whatever the case is. And then we finally get it, and that first issue was a banger. That first issue was like the greatest book of the year, basically up to that point. Fantastic, amazing stuff. The idea there being 3 Jokers, and you start for the last 4 years, I think we all built up the idea of what it is that 3 Jokers could be. There's one from different eras, and there's one from maybe different dimensions or different Earths or whatever it is. How's there 3 Jokers, 3 Jokers, 3 Jokers? Book comes out, first issue is a banger. Second issue was a dud, and you're like, all right.
I liked the second issue, but then again, I got all the way through it, and I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it. I thought it was just okay.
It had that curse, or just had that bad luck of following up that issue 1, because they just dumped everything into that issue 1. They gave you all the ideas, all the concept, who's who, what's going on with where Red Hood's back in his normal Red Hood helmet. Everything was going on that first issue. Jason Fabok is just putting in the reps with the art on that book. Incredible. And that issue 1 was fantastic. I mean, most of us don't really buy single issues that much, but I think we all went out to get Three Jokers #1. I know me and Lou did. Like, it was a big deal. Like, Lou couldn't find it, I think, for a minute. And we were taking pictures of stuff in there, and we were talking about it. It became like a really great discussion, and it was a great, atmosphere for that book. And then issue 2, I call it like a dud, but it just couldn't keep up with 1. But then 3 and everything else afterwards, they dropped the ball on that series at like the 1 yard line. They introduced all these concepts, all these ideas, and in this story, they retcon it. Retcon, and then they retcon the retcon back, and then they retcon the retcon. It's like 3 retcons, not 3 Jokers. It was just nothing but different retcons and changing story ideas. And Joe Cool and Batman finally meet up for the first time since the murders of his parents, and they would just had like to say, okay, and just kind of walked away, kind of attitude.
It literally went just like that. Huh, okay.
You know what? That I'm gonna have to say that I have the same. I'm in agreement with Gabe. That was the biggest letdown of the year for me, and it's like I said, it was 4 years of buildup, 4 years since the end of Darkseid War, and that was like Darkseid War was freaking awesome. Like that latter part of Jeff Johns' Justice League just was insanely awesome. And I love that, and the tease at the end, and when Batman gets on the Mobius chair, and he's like, "I am God," and I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like, that was so cool. And then he has that vision, and he like knows who Joker is, and then reveals. You get that reveal about the 3 Jokers, and it's just such a cool. Like, it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, okay.
Well, you see Batman lose his shit. He gets visibly angry. I mean, he's just like yelling, no. At the end of that, it like blows his world apart.
It was a good reveal. It was a
really solid, and so you get that setup, because it's not just a little whimper of a reveal. It was a really well done reveal. Mm-hmm. And then they tease you on it, not just like there's several stories where they tease it throughout Rebirth, where they'll have like a single page panel where at the end it was like Batman investigating the 3 Jokers and stuff like that. And then finally, after 4 years, when we're all sitting there like, is this thing actually happening, or is it just a myth at this point? We finally get it. And I was so let down, and I remember now. I could go back to the text logs with my brother-in-law, because he picked it up, and he was like, "Did you get it?" Like, "Oh man!" I was like, "Dude, this was awful." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "That was just bad." Like, I didn't even like the first issue. I thought the first issue, I was like, that was such a
really down on it from the beginning.
Yeah, from the start.
Yeah.
And not just on that, but also, and nobody get upset until I finish the statement here, but also on the artwork, because I have been following Jason Fabok's artwork like basically since he started, and this was the worst of his artwork, because he is so held back by the fact that Jeff Johns just wants to be Alan Moore, that Jeff Johns is forcing him to use the 3-panel, 9-panel grid. 4-panel grid, whichever grid that he decides to do. So he has no dynamic range to his artwork in this series. And it was so disappointing, because I went into this expecting like, oh my gosh, it's a prestige format book. They put so much effort into this. This is going to be the best, the best artwork that we see from him. And it was by far the most disappointing artwork that I've seen from him. And it was the exact same reason I was disappointed in Gary Frank's artwork over in Doomsday Clock, because not Alan Moore. Jeff Johns wants to be Alan Moore so bad, but he can't. And that's where Jeff Johns has completely lost himself, is because he let go of everything that made him special as a writer in writing these hopeful superhero stories that reach back and pull things from the Silver Age, from before his childhood, and utilize those and bring them back into the modern era. And that's what made his Flash great. That's what made his Green Lantern great. That's what made everything that he's done in the past great. That's why he can write Superman so well. and then he completely just throws that in the trash and decides, you know what? It's almost like he went from childhood to going through puberty, and he's like, well, now I have to be dark and gritty and whatever, and he's like, all of a sudden decided he needs to embrace the beginning of the modern age of comics and start going back to 1985. And he's like, so now I'm just going to be as Alan Moore as I can be, but he's not Alan Moore. And it's like that. It's like watching a kid who's the most positive kid on earth. I don't know. Do y'all remember the episode of Hey Arnold where Eugene tries to be the bad kid?
Yeah.
He pulls on the leather jacket and slicks his hair back. It's that. That is Jeff John's writing his damn book, is Eugene trying to be the tough kid because he was let down by the abdicator or whatever it was. And oh my God, like I'm so disappointed. The first issue was crap, the second issue was crapper, and then the third issue was crappest. Like that's like, but you know what the worst part about it is if they do an oversized edition, I'm buying that deluxe.
Three Jokers really is kind of the equivalent of like you see this girl in ninth grade, you're like, wow, she's amazing, I really would love to date her. And then once you get to 12th grade and you finally date her, you find out she's a racist. You're like, wow, well that kind of just ruined the entire thing for me. So that's really what it comes down to. I agree with you. I think Jeff Johns, I don't like this era of his writing per se. I think he really needs to look at his writing and kind of go back to what made him Jeff Johns.
This is making me worried for Batman Earth 1 Book 3.
He needs to get away from this Alan Moore stuff, from this grim dark. Because his Green Lantern run, his JSA run, it had its dark moments. It did. But in between all that, there were lighthearted moments. There were really emotional beats, and there was really great stuff. I mean, go back and look at all that Green Lantern stuff. And it's just brilliant. Go back and look at his JSA stuff. Brilliant stuff where he mines the past. And he does it in a way that is loving and caring. And he really does enjoy those characters. I don't know what he's doing lately. I just don't like this new generation of his.
It's not even just that, but just that the idea. And now it's like it's not in continuity because it's a Black Label book. So
that too.
Count.
That's the other thing that's all up in the air was like people were saying like, well, it's not actually part of continuity because it's Black Label, and I'm like, but that's not absolutely true because I know that there's some stuff that have been retroactively Black Label or some newer Black Label stuff that are part of continuity. But then like Johns, I think, came out and said basically, and this is where I was like I facepalmed so hard where he was like, it's just like The Killing Joke. You can decide, like the reader gets to decide whether or not it's part of continuity. And I was like, dude, fuck you. Like, seriously. I don't know why, like, he's, like Lou said, like, why does he want to be this way? Why is he trying to do this shit? That's 2020 Jeff Johns right there.
Oh my God, that was great.
Is that him showing up on the set of Justice League on his way to Cyborg?
He's about to be mean to Ray Fisher.
Oh my God! Wow.
Oh, that was awesome.
But like I don't know if he has this idea that because the other like top writers at DC right now use darker things and darker themes and stuff. But when you look at stuff like what Snyder does, Snyder's just like having the time of his life writing like death metal and stuff like that. Like he's just like, I'm going to throw anything I want at the wall and see what.
He has lost his monkey mind and it is becoming almost incomprehensible from what I've heard.
I love that stuff. It's so crazy. I
So
love
great.
Come on. Yes.
Yes. I really do worry about Earth 1 Book 3 now that you're mentioning that he's turned so hard towards the dark side, because those first two books are just about my favorite Batman books. And to think that he might muck it up going this, like trying to be dark and gritty, makes me really nervous.
The next step, and this is, I'm not saying this as a joke, I'm not saying this to say it lightly, but the next step is you're going to wind up getting a rape scene in a Jeff Johns book.
Oh my God.
Like that's how hard he's trying to emulate Alan Moore. He's going to try and
I don't know if he'd go that far.
Or maybe live birth. Like
I
he
don't
did in
think-
Miracle, Mr. Miracle, or Miracle Man.
That is a pull. That is a reference I don't think some of our fans will get.
Okay, so in Miracle Man, at the Alan Moore world, there was an issue where it's legitimately a live birth being that you watch happening. It's graphic. It's all the bits. It's all the yuck. It's all the beauty of childbirth. Right there on your in your comic book. So that's what
And that was the late to mid to late 80s.
That was mid 80s. That was controversial.
Yeah.
That was I think there was a warning label on it too, or something like that that lets you know that this depiction is live birth in it.
And that book was out of print until a few years ago, right? Like they refused to print it back or something because of rights issues.
Yeah, there's always been rights issues with that book. Like Todd McFarlane had it for a bit. Neil Gaiman maybe had it. Maybe somebody else had it.
He had it right after Moore did.
Yeah, so there was some crazy disputes. Todd McFarlane threw Michael. I forgot the character's name, but basically Mr. Miracle in a issue of Spawn because he thought he had the rights for it, and then that's kind of where I learned about the whole thing, and that's when I started hearing about the trials.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can move on.
Let's move.
If you could highlight Michael Eamon at 906, even when my wife, I demanded the docs are pixelated. That was great. What's our next category?
Oh, sorry. Okay, next category. Jess, if you want to go get a root beer and kind of just chill out or veg out for the next 20 minutes, we got you. Manga.
I've read manga this year.
Okay.
Big booby manga from Ryley.
This is probably Riley's biggest category. What you got, man?
So I wanted to talk not just like best manga that I read this year because there's so many good ones, but I decided I wanted to focus on what the best new manga that I read this year was, and not just new to me, but like a new series. And I talked about this in my top or my ranking of the current Shonen Jump series, and my number one was Mashal. Mashal is a series. You can read it for free on the Shonen Jump app. Well, I guess pay $2 a month to be able to read all of it. It's got about 40 chapters right now. Basically takes place in a world full of magic. Everyone in the world can use magic, and you meet the main character who can't. And you find out really quickly that it's not that he's the only person who can't use magic. It's that when someone can't use magic, the government comes and basically disappears them. And so his adopted father has kept him hidden for his entire life. And while keeping him hidden, he basically has him training his body physically. And so he's become extremely strong. And the main character is named Mash, by the way. So Mash goes out into town one day, and he's found out that he can't use magic. So he runs back home, and then the government comes to disappear him. And they come and start to interrogate his adopted father, and his dad's like, I don't have anyone here. I don't have a son. What are you talking about? And Mash just comes through and busts the door down because he's so strong he doesn't know his own strength. Door flies off, shows his feats of strength to the guys from the government, and they're like, okay, we're gonna let you go, but you have to join. Basically, they force him to join the magic school in this world, and they're like, if you can become a top student there without using magic, if you can retain being a top student, we'll save you and we'll save your dad. And so that leads into the bulk of the story, which takes place at basically it's a manga version of Hogwarts. Literally everything is there. They have their own type of version of Quidditch. They take similar classes. They have different houses. Instead of getting points, they're rewarded with coins. And it's basically Hogwarts not written by a TERF, so that's really awesome. And then as the series progresses, it's very funny. You get to see Mash trying to get around not having magic by using his muscles to pretend that he can do magic. Like when everyone is using magic to levitate the broomstick so they can pick it up, he's like, I don't know what to do. And so he stomps on the ground real hard so the broomstick just flies up and he grabs it. And then he like kicks really fast so that he can float since he can't fly on the broomstick. He does a lot of different stuff just using his strength. And so it winds up being really funny, but you get a really great supporting cast. A lot of great antagonists are introduced. And by the time you get into like the 20s and stuff, it starts developing into being a shonen action title. And you see that the artist on this really has some awesome chops when it comes to drawing action sequences and giving us some really awesome material. Everyone has their different specialties and abilities that they can use, and this artist is really great at displaying that stuff. So MASH is the best new series I would say that I've read this year. Mashle, M-A-S-H-L-E. Mashle Muscles and Magic. It has the stupidest name and the stupidest picture on the app. I did not read it for like almost a year because it looked so dumb. But then not really, because Flex Mentallo is a man of muscle magic, so he flexes his muscles and then stuff happens. But MASH, he has to use his actual muscles to disguise things so that it looks like it's magic.
Okay, I'm gonna add that to my list and get on that before it gets way too far into the series.
Yeah, it's like 40-something chapters right now. And if you haven't read it either, my number 2 pick is basically just as good. Was Undead Unluck. That one's also fantastic and is, I think, 1 chapter longer or 1 chapter shorter than Mashle is.
Good stuff, man. I'm gonna go with the popular choice, I think, for a lot of people, and go with Demon Slayer. Great series. I believe it wrapped up this year. I'm still catching up on it. But absolutely love Demon Slayer and the story of Tanjiro, as he is going through feudal Japan, basically hunting down demons while looking for a cure for his sister, who herself has become one. Great, absolutely beautiful art. Love the characters, love the story, and the fact that the main bad guy is Michael Jackson is pretty awesome. For those of you that have read it, you'll probably understand that. My follow-up would probably be Spy X Family. Really fun and lighthearted spy series where a guy, basically, he's on a mission and he has to create a family in order to basically complete said mission. And he is a spy. He ends up picking up a girl that is from the shelter, and it turns out that she is telekinetic. She's psychic, so she can read minds. It's a crazy plot, but it's so much fun. And every single week, I look forward to reading each chapter as it comes out. It's really early on too. What is it, like in the 50s, 60s, something like that, if that. But I absolutely adore it, and I wish Gio was here because this is definitely his bag. He loves manga, so those are my choices.
Well, I'm gonna have to say for my choice, since things like Berserk is too old, and I think that was last year I started reading that kind of stuff. But this year, really when it comes down to it, the only manga I really read this year I had time for that I fit in for manga or any kind of real reading this year was Chainsaw Man. Everybody's new favorite vomit in your mouth manga, Chainsaw Man. It's just a fun, great little story about a kid who just wants to touch boobs and has to pay off a debt for his family from a previous generation, and by selling body parts and all this kind of crazy stuff going on. And then you realize that he also has chainsaws that come out of his feet and his arms and all of his appendages, and just kills and destroys and maims the nastiest demon monsters that you ever see. So it's a great book, man. Were you guys reading it this year too?
I've read the beginning of it, but I haven't read it yet. I've read the creator's previous series, Fire Punch, which is ridiculously fantastic in my opinion, because it also has like it's something where the creator was obviously trying to be edgy as commentary on people that try to be edgy with their series, and so we get like basically the edgiest plot that you can get with like the worst possible things you can imagine thrown in there, but it works so well. And then you find out, and this is slight, like halfway through the series, spoilers, but you find out that the reason why everything is going on in the series, the antagonist or one of the antagonists, is basically because it's a post-apocalyptic world. One of the antagonists is basically just like, the world ended before the new Star Wars movies could be made, and I just want to bring our world back to that point where technology is advanced enough where we can get those new Star Wars movies made, and that's why I'm doing everything.
Oh, that's too bad.
So yeah, I absolutely love that series, and so I have been putting off reading Chainsaw Man because I have but I have a lot of high hopes, and I'm glad that Fujimoto's been getting the attention that they deserve, because I know a lot of people were not big fans of Fire Punch because of the nature of the series, but I absolutely loved it.
Jess?
Oh, there's so many to choose from. My manga, I did read 5 or 6, I feel like, this year.
Nice, good job, Jess.
Thank you. The most recent one was the Blade of the Immortal Sword. And I read that with Kristan. But I think the mangaka that I can read and understand the best is Junji Ito. I can follow his stuff even backwards, and I can follow it, and it's a subject matter, whatever his book is, it's always a subject matter that I find compelling, because he goes to the weirdest, darkest, most twisted places. And I read, it's not from this year, but I read it this year, so I'm going to have to count it. A Dissolving Classroom. Kristan and I got it for $4 off of Amazon. Yeah. And there's a scene in that book, I am telling you the truth, I almost threw up at it. It is so vile, and that's why I loved it. It gave me that much of a visceral reaction. It's about these two teenage brother and sister, and they keep going from town to town. And the first thing the brother does is always apologize for everything. And the sister is this weird demonic thing. And they keep bottles of this ungodly fluid in their refrigerator that's really vile. That's the part that almost made me throw up. And it is super twisted. And I kind of regret selling all my Junji Ito, because the first thing I ever read was Shiver, and I could go back and read that and enjoy it again. It was
wow.
I can follow him, and I like his art, and I like how twisted the stories are. And it's not, it's laid out fairly simply, so I can sort of follow it backwards. So I read a couple of his books this year. I think I read Yo and not Shiver. I think I read Yo and Shiver, but the first one I read was Uzumaki. And they're all memorable, and I can read them and understand them, and it's very simple but effective art. And I don't get lost in the art, because a lot of these mangas for me, like Blade of the Immortal, Blade of the Immortal Sword, Sword of the Blade, what is it?
Blade of the Immortal. Yeah.
I got lost in some of that art, even though it was written in Western style. I got some of the art I couldn't follow, and Ito's books are easier for me to follow. So I might get some more of his stuff, and because I could reread Uzumaki again.
Did you? I don't remember what short story collection it was in, but did you read the story about the boy who drinks all the oil?
I think I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's all I had to do.
Yeah. I did actually this year.
I've heard Ito is actually a really nice guy.
I'm sure he is.
It's the most hilarious thing ever. I don't remember who posted the meme in the farm group, but it was like
Miyazaki.
Yeah, him and Miyazaki, and it was him saying like my favorite band is the Beatles. Ito saying that, and then it's like your world if your favorite band is the Beatles, and it's like his artwork all crazy and stuff, and then Miyazaki is like I hate the Beatles, and it's like your world if you hate the Beatles. But I posted something on there and went a little bit further, and I was like, what I find funny is that for the work that Ito does, like how disturbing and disgusting a lot of his art can be. He's like such a like cute guy. Like I pulled a picture of him like with cat ears. He's like this, and I was like, Ito's art, Ito as a person, and then like I feel like he embraces otaku culture basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then meanwhile you have Miyazaki, and it's like he's just like anime is a mistake is like the quote, but the actual like in that interview and stuff, what he says is he hates otaku culture. And so you have like Ito, who's got this dark sensibility, but when you look at him, he's like the cutesy, cat ear wearing guy. I could imagine him being like, "Nya," and like pretending to lick his hand. And then you have Miyazaki, who would be sitting there like, "I fucking hate you," like looking at him, and he makes all these like whimsical looking things.
Yeah, you can't really, it happens, but you can't really judge or base what you think somebody looks or acts like on their art, but you do. And it's strange when you find out that they're just completely different. Like in his case, or like I keep talking about how nice and sweet and like you said, cute, that's a good term for this person as well. Sam Keith is. He's the nicest, sweetest little like humble, meek person you ever meet. But you look at his art, you go, this guy must be a maniac and must probably drive like 2 motorcycles at once. Like, he's a badass. And then you meet him and he just, he wears, typical everyday clothes. And he's just a normal, nice, sweet guy who doesn't quite understand that he's so incredible, amazing, and he's so humble about it. So, yeah, it's funny like that.
I feel like another one that gets me is Scott Snyder. Like, he writes all these really, like, dark and depressing types of stories, especially like his non DC work.
Mm-hmm.
And then him as a person, he's just this really nice dude, goofy,
Mm-hmm.
He's talked about before like his dealings with depression and stuff, but like you wouldn't expect him to be the person that writes a lot of the stories that he writes. Meanwhile, Greg Capullo definitely looks like the type of guy that would draw everything in
yeah, totally. They're so nice to meet at cons, both of those guys.
It's funny because they've said it before, but when they first started working together on Batman, they hated one another.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, there was a really bad relationship between them at first where I don't know who it was, but one of them was like, it's either he goes or I go. Like, it was just getting to that point where they just couldn't work together.
Wow, they're like best buds now, right?
Yeah. So
they're like family.
Yeah.
Sakura Darling's right real quick about this one, Jess. If you like, you'd probably like Blood on the Tracks. There's only a few volumes out right now. It's very grounded and stuff, but it's kind of a horror series that is very easy to follow as far as the art and story goes.
So Jess, you're liking out of Ito's other stuff that you read? Because I read.
Sorry?
I read Dissolving Classroom too, and I liked it, but I wasn't blown away by it.
Uh-huh.
I never picked up any Ito's other books, but you're saying they're all really good and fantastic.
I liked them.
Okay.
I liked them a lot. Uzumaki was the first one I read, and it was so different than anything I'd ever read before that I was happy to try and read his other stuff. But it's all so dark and twisted and really disturbing, which to me, that's what you want a comic book to do, is to really bring up emotions in you to be effective. You want to be really happy or laugh or be disturbed by something. You don't want to just, that was all right. You want it to be memorable. And his books are just so, they go places that I just could not think of myself. And it is disturbing, but maybe I like disturbing stuff and I don't know it. Well, no, I know it. I like disturbing. I like horror movies, so I don't know. I really liked his stuff.
Good. I'm going to check it out then. I need some more manga. Like I was in the middle of Pluto, which I'm loving. I think I'm on like the third or fourth volume of Pluto. But that's when packing started, so I kind of put all that away. And I want to get back to it because I really want to see what's going on with those characters. Pluto's fantastic. It's so good.
Pluto is just on another level for me. It's only 9 volumes, so it's pretty short. But Pluto is one of those things where from beginning to end, I was like, this is perfect. Like this is so good.
Yeah, that makes it on a lot of my list. And I two things. Number one, Gabe, did you read were you thinking of Drifting Classroom? Because I know you read that one and that Drifting Classroom was the one that had the really thick hardcover, but Dissolving Classroom is a small paperback.
No, I got the Dissolving Classroom where
okay. All right.
I got it for like $2 on Amazon or something.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure you were thinking of the right thing because I do remember that you picked up the first hardcover of Drifting Classroom and we're not crazy about that. And then second, I did a video because there's people in the chat who are newer to manga and not really onto manga and stuff. I did a video several months ago on my channel where I talked about, I think it was 5 different manga series for comic readers. And I did the same the other way. I did comics for manga readers because part of what I've been trying to do on my channel and since I came back to YouTube was bridging that gap because there's so many people that read one but don't read the other or like read one but do not like the other, and so I'm trying to help to bridge the gap because at the end of the day it's all comics, you know. So I recommend 5 series, 5 manga that I think comic readers would really dig, and I think Pluto is one of the titles that came up on there. Yeah.
It's really easy to get into. It's you know, if you're a normal comic book reader, a superhero reader, this is one of the very few superhero-y type mangas out there. They don't do a lot of superhero mangas, and this is one of them. And it also has connections with Astro Boy, and it's also a detective story and like a murder mystery, and
it'd be a good
like a serial killer story, and like it's all kinds of stuff mixed into it.
If Jess could stomach the whole 9 volumes, it would be a good one for Crime Corner.
Oh, well, Taylor to read manga.
I don't know, man. Pluto is universally loved by even people that I know that don't like manga. That like, yeah, Pluto was great.
I would say Taylor would speak up for himself right now, but I know he and Tyler are off having their own super chat with each other, bashing me and ripping into me.
They should come in the show and bash and rip into you. Yeah. I'll send them the link.
We will be here all night. Let's go and try to keep moving on.
I should send them the link.
All right, go ahead and do that. And while you do that, let's move on to the next one.
All right, what's next?
Send them the link.
Do it.
Yeah, go for it.
Tell your lady hi for us and congratulations, Luke.
I will. I would. Best artist. I think a lot of people in the chat were gonna say Jason Fabak until Ryley just kind of repeated that for about 10 minutes straight earlier. So my choice actually, it was tough for me because I actually like Jason Fabak's art on 3 Jokers. But I would have to go with a Michael. I can never pronounce his last name. How do you pronounce his last name? He's on Daredevil.
Oh, Chicheto?
Chicheto, yes. Chicheto on Daredevil is great. Love his work on Daredevil. It's absolutely beautiful. It's fantastic. Kind of has elements of Alex Maleev a little bit with that scratchy style. It has a whole bunch of other stuff going on. I absolutely love the series. I think it's fantastic, and I think Chip Zdarsky is writing probably the best thing he's ever written. And the art is just beautiful. It's so good that every time he's not on the book, I'm like, I kind of don't want to read this. Not that the story is bad. It's just he makes that much of an impact for me on the art in that book. Oops. Who wants to go next? Anyone?
What are we talking
about? We're talking about artists, and I'm trying to think about like which artists were really blowing me away on books this year.
Art this year.
Fabak. I mean, I love Fabak.
I love Fabok's stuff on Three Jokers. That was the only saving grace after that first issue.
I did myself disservice by being familiar with his work. And like, I swear, like if you guys go and read other stuff of his, even just thumb through work that he's done on other stuff, I definitely recommend the Swamp Thing special he did with Tom King. That is a beautiful issue.
It's gorgeous.
I think he's done a couple Batman things. I know he did some Justice League with Johns before. His art on Justice League was really good. And then he also, I think he first popped up over on Detective Comics with John Layman, which I didn't read, but the artwork is fantastic over there. But those are some examples of him where he's not being squandered by Jeff Johns trying to do the grid paneling like Alan Moore.
Gabe?
I'm gonna go with Jason Fabok. I mean,
It's beautiful. I think it's beautiful.
It's fantastic, and I understand where Ryley coming from 100% with that 9-panel grid and how that really does affect storytelling. But I think Fabok was able to roll with the punches on that, and he really made some interesting looking panels and storytelling with that limitation or with that kind of handicap going on. I think he's next level. I think he leveled up really hard on this Three Jokers book because it took 4 years for it to happen. But it's a Brian Boland extra added kind of spin that he's added to the style that he was before. It's dark, but it's not like muddy or disgusting. He can draw beautiful people and ugly people. He doesn't have like a lot of artists do where they have that typical male face or that typical female face, and it's the same face that they draw for every female or every male. He can swing with the punches, and he can come up with designs of different people, and everybody looks unique. And that's an element I think a lot of people don't have. Like Greg Capullo, you could tell a Greg Capullo man because they all look the same. They all have that big chin and that big jawline. But Fabok, every character looks different. And I think that's my love for him right now. He should be talked about more with that book. He deserves to be superstar status with that book.
Agreed.
You know what sucked for him was he was the one designing DC's Essential line of action figures, and then the Essential line got canceled because of McFarlane's line.
Yeah.
So he was
awesome.
Do what?
McFarlane's line of action figures is awesome.
Y'all already know how I feel about the McFarlane line. I talked about that in the chat.
Do you not like it?
No, I don't like his line because it's like 90% Batman figures.
Oh yeah, that's definitely.
Well, I don't know if that's his fault or that's like a DC thing.
No, that's him. It's 100%. Because I've watched him talk about
what sells is Batman.
That's the thing is he knows that too because he's a money man and he knows what sells. But like it just sucks because there's the action figure community is very different. In that there's basically he's trying to sell not to the action figure community, he's trying to sell to the general community of people. So he's trying to get those general people who are just interested in Batman. Basically, they go to the store and they see like 50 Batman figures, and the thing is like he's at the same time digging into the obscure types of Batman that are in the comics. Like he's doing all the different metal Batmen, and he's doing stuff from the Last Night on Earth storyline. And he's not focusing on any other characters whatsoever. There's a Flash, there's a Superman, there's a there's an animated Superman, an animated Green Lantern, there's the Injustice Flash. So I think I counted like a total of 8 or 9 different figures that were not Batman or Batman related out of his entire line of figures. So it was just really upsetting. And also the legs are always way too thin for me.
So let me ask you a question. How quickly did you pre-order that Batman Beyond figure though?
I did not.
What? Come on.
So there you go.
Wow,
Taylor.
Oh, Taylor.
Oh,
Hey, Taylor.
Jess, I'm really surprised to see you here. Aren't you supposed to be hanging out with your wife tonight? That's what you told me and Tyler.
Hey, Taylor, why don't you tell Ryley why he's wrong and Jason for box art is actually pretty good?
No, I totally agree with everything Ryley said. Jason Fablock's art is fantastic. It was constrained by the 9-panel grid, whereas Jeff Johns actually knew how to write him in Dark Side War.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That always gets Lou. That always gets Lou. Well, Taylor, what a surprise to see you.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me.
I was like, if you guys are going to just rip and talk bad about Jess, might as well just do it on the show.
Tyler can't do it because his daughter's asleep in his office.
I was going to say time both on, and that way you guys can have your super best buddy friend conversation, and you can do the show at the same time, and nobody's feelings are hurt.
Well, we were talking about having like a hangout via StreamYard tonight, and Jess was like, "Oh, I can't date night with my wife." I told her we're going to spend time with her. 8 o'clock, get the notification. I'm like, what kind of crap is this? Jess is I was giving a hard time in our group chat.
I knew as soon as I agreed to do this, I said, "Oh, I am going to catch major amounts of grief from those two about this," and I did.
I think
Now,
group chat, yeah.
Taylor is not going to read manga at all ever.
Nothing against all of the other guys, but I'm more against manga than Jess is. Jess is more willing to read it than I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think it's a good medium at all. It's just not good. Personally.
We can't really hear you, Taylor.
Yeah, we're having problems with your audio, man.
We're having problems with your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All I said was that, I think manga is a very valid medium. It's just not for me personally.
Okay. Maybe you should not wear headphones.
There we go. Try it one more time, man.
That
See what
works.
we get.
Okay, so we'll see if this actually works. Is that better?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
So I don't want to catch any hate in the chat that I think manga is a valid medium. It's just not for me personally.
It's a valid medium, but not for Taylor.
Yes.
Right. They suggested that we review Pluto for Crime Corner. Was that it?
Yeah, Pluto from Crime Corner.
And I said, there's no way. It's just not, that's not going to happen. But there's lots of other stuff we can review on Crime Corner, but probably
I don't know.
not.
Crazier things have happened. Jess said that we weren't going to do our friend hangout tonight. Just hang out with my wife. So who knows? Anything could really happen. Tyler's trying to make me feel stupid in the chat.
T-Lar Blunt's in the chat now. Now he's he doesn't know who to hate right now. He hates everything.
Jess, favorite artist, man.
Gary Frank, Doomsday Clock.
Good choice.
I hate you.
I knew he would. As soon as I saw it on my shelf, I said, "Oh, Gary Frank." Oh, right.
That was a book you didn't enjoy either, Jess.
Sorry?
You didn't like Doomsday Clock, though.
I didn't like it as much as you did. You liked it more than I did, right?
I did like it more than you did. I said it's a great Superman comic. It's not a great Watchmen comic.
Yeah, and so I want to read it again, but I did enjoy the art.
Did you, Tyler, or did you like Three Jokers?
I thought the first 2 issues were good. And the ending, I wouldn't say it was horrible. I know Ryley really hates it. I would just say it didn't justify its own existence. There was no reason for it to exist. It didn't really say anything new about the Joker or about Batman that didn't already exist. It didn't add anything new to the table.
There you go. Golden Kirkman Award.
That's Taylor's Golden Kirkman.
Taylor, what's your favorite artist of the year?
My Golden Kirkman, Jess and I did a review of the TKO books, the 3rd round.
Oh, yeah.
And The Pool by Steve Orlando was the worst book I've read all year by far. It was horrible. Like one of the I don't think Steve Orlando's for me. And like Jess said on our show, I don't think Steve Orlando should be writing comics. Like I've never read anything by him that I've actually enjoyed. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I just don't enjoy him as a writer at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember you didn't like the poll at all.
And you had a big problem with the art too, Jess.
Oh,
All
yeah.
the facial expressions, angry, mad, sad, happy. It was the same exact facial expression.
Yeah, that was a weird comic. I didn't. That was the one we liked the least, and yeah, you hated it. But
We like the other ones.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, the 2 books we liked, and then the poll we didn't. But the third wave overall was much better than the second wave. Still not as good as the first wave, but the third wave at least had 2 good books from TKO. Yeah.
Taylor, favorite artist, man, of the year? While you're here.
Sean Phillips. I think him and Ed Brubaker just did an amazing job this year, putting out old stuff and putting out some new stuff this year. Jess and I are going to be reviewing Reckless sometime soon. Cruel Summer was my book of the year. I love that book so much. Pulp was fantastic. You just can't beat that combo. I think Sean Phillips is one of my top 3 favorite artists of all time.
It's great how you could do like the gritty city crime stuff and then still be able to do like cowboys and Indian horses and stuff like that.
Yeah, Ed Brubaker said in an interview that Sean Phillips told him, I want to do a Western. And Ed Brubaker's like, I kind of did one. It was mainly set in the Depression era, but I tried to do somewhat of a Western. I honored his request.
All right. So we're down to the last 3. Yeah, 3. We'll be quick. The next one is Best Art Author. This is a no-brainer for me because I'm gonna break out my shoe polish and kiss the man's feet pretty soon. I'm gonna give it to Donny Cates. I mean, I can't. I've been singing the praises of that man the entire year. Thor, Venom, and now King in Black. Just home run after home run after home run for me.
Crossover is really good too. He's out of Image.
The man hasn't had a whiff for me at all, and I keep waiting for him to drop the ball, and he has yet to do so with me. And his work output is insane. What is he writing now? Like 4 or 5 titles a month? Something like that?
Yeah, they're all top quality. They're all monthly, and he's doing Marvel's backing him with probably like the biggest crossover event. I mean, outside of the X-Men stuff, but that X-Men stuff is over. Right now, the biggest crossover there's going to be going into 2021 is going to be that King in Black.
And it's good. Yeah. I'm enjoying the hell out of King in Black so far.
Yeah, you're right. Everything Cates does is gold. I haven't read a bad thing from him. Even like his stuff where you're like, what is this? Like what Tomahawk or a Tomahawk? A Tomahawk is great. All of his stuff is really fun stuff. He's a champ, and he just keeps putting out work. And he's a fan. Like he is another guy in Venom, like I was talking about with Hulk. He's adding new elements to the Venom mythos. He added the idea of Null. He added the idea of these different symbiotes and symbiote God, and he brought back Carnage and made a really great Carnage storyline, which is one of the last few Marvel books that stuck the landing for an event. Such a good book. Even the crossover titles were interesting and good. It's a great omnibus with all hot, good, well-read, connected stories. He's a master right now, and he's such a young guy.
I am not a crossover guy. I usually just skip that with event books, and I read every single one of those crossovers for Maximum Carnage, and I enjoyed them in one way, shape, or form. I dug them almost all of them, and they tied in pretty well.
Absolute Carnage?
Absolute Carnage, yeah.
Yeah, Absolute Carnage.
And then that Venom Volume 2 is coming out pretty soon, too, right? So that's going to be another just great book for him.
I think the last week of this month.
Yeah.
I think it's January 27th.
Yeah.
I think.
Does that have because I know it has the storyline or the issues from the Absolute Carnage crossover, but does it have the Planet symbiote or whatever after that, the Planet Venom?
I think Volume 2 takes place right after Absolute Carnage, so it has that Venom Island.
That's what I was thinking about. Venom
16
Island.
through 25.
16 through, so it actually does. It'll double dip with the Absolute Carnage.
I think isn't 13 through 15 are in Absolute Carnage?
13, 14, and 15 are in War of the Realms.
Oh, War of the Realms. That's right.
Because they're written by, I think, Frank Thierry or Cullen Bunn or one of those other.
Well, they're not written by Donny Cates.
Yeah.
The Venom books.
Right.
One tie into War of the Realms. Interesting. Okay.
And everything he's done, like Lou said with Thor, again, he's adding new stuff with Thor. He's adding stuff in the Thor universe. He's adding stuff in with Galactus, and he's adding stuff in with. I can't go into too much more without spoiling things, but there's some stuff in there that is going to just rock everybody's socks off when that hardcover comes out, and our community is just going to shake.
He brings back the concept of Donald Blake and makes it work in an awesome way. I love what he's doing with that. It is so bonkers and so much fun.
Yeah, he's great. He's this generation's Bendis, not in the fact that he's doing everything, but just in the fact that he is Marvel's golden child right now.
He reminds me of a Jeff Johns. When early Jeff Johns, because we were talking about him later on, where early Jeff Johns, where he was hitting, and he did not miss almost anything when he was really coming up.
Yeah, I mean Jeff Johns was Jeff Johns. Yeah, the Jeff Johns you think about when you want to talk about Jeff Johns' work. You don't want to talk about Doomsday Clock or Three Jokers. Let's talk about some Flash and Green Lantern.
Ryley?
I'm gonna go a little bit different because I don't want to double dip on what you guys are saying, because obviously Donnie's been doing great this year. He's been doing great for the past several years. But I wanted to highlight. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and go for a manga and say Ichiro Oda over at One Piece has been just killing it this year. Because you have the responsibility of writing a series that is about to hit 1,000 chapters. And literally, I think chapter 100 is due on the app in 2 days. Or 1,000 is due in the app in 2 days. And he's done such a wonderful job throughout the entirety of this series. But getting close to such a monumental number of 1,000 that not many series get to, he's bringing everything in that he's been working on, elements that came from towards the beginning of the series, elements from the previous couple of arcs, and bringing everything together in a way that's extremely satisfying, which is such a crazy thing to do. It's so insane, because a lot of times, a lot of these shonen manga like this will lose their steam once they go on for such a long time. And this one, while it's had a couple of arcs that are not as great as the others, has really just continued to push forward in such a great way that it's rewarding for its readers. It's something where it's rewarding whether you've been reading it for the past couple of years or the past couple months, you just recently decided to jump on and catch up, or if you're someone like myself who's been reading it for the past 17 years and has grown up alongside this series. It's very cool to see these elements that have just been there for years coming back into play years later. You're like, oh, I remember that. I remember that character. I remember that concept that they talked about. So I really want to highlight him, even though I mentioned a different manga as my top one for the year. But One Piece has been a real banger this year, and Oda has been putting in some of his best work this year.
Everyone note that Jess left as Ryley started talking about manga. He's taking his bathroom break.
Jerk. What a jerk.
Taylor, what's your writer, man, for the year?
It's not going to be a surprise to you guys. It's going to be Ed Brubaker. I'm sorry. It's the amount of work he put out this year with Sean Phillips. It's all amazing. Mm-hmm. You can't really beat him. I did have an interesting experience with a writer today. I gave him a 1 star on Goodreads for one book. I'm going to give him a 5 star on Goodreads for another book. Matt Fraction, Adventure Man, terrible. Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, is one of the best big 2 books I've read over the past year. It's fantastic. It's one of the funniest books I've ever read. Jess and I are going to be talking about it next week on Batter Days. It's a great book. The most hot and cold writer of the year for me is Matt Fraction.
You know what? I gave Matt Fraction his due because I love November. I don't know if you've read that yet, but it's actually pretty good.
I had to go get my charger. Sorry.
I read the first volume, and I wasn't a huge fan, but you said the second volume really ties it together more, so maybe I need to go to the second volume.
I would have dropped it had I not had the second volume.
That's what happened to me. I read it on Hoopla, the first volume. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, at all. But then I heard you say the second one makes it much clearer. So maybe I'll give it another try.
Yeah. Jess, your writer of the year.
I haven't read any Donny Cates stuff currently, so I can't speak to it. So I'm gonna have to take the easy way out and just talk about somebody that I read 2 books this year and loved them both. And sorry, it's Ed Brubaker for Cruel Summer and Pulp, and probably Reckless since it came out. I just haven't read it yet, but I haven't caught up on a lot of current stuff in single issues, so I haven't read any Venom or Thor. So, or Immortal Hulk. So I will have to just say Ed Brubaker, because all those, for 3 books of his to come out in 1 year, that's a pretty big treat. And I'm sure that I'm going to love Reckless too.
That was my choice as you were getting your charger, Jess.
Oh, okay. But you had something to say about Jimmy Olsen?
Oh, I was just saying I had an interesting experience with Matt Fraction because I gave him a 1-star on Goodreads for Adventure Man, and I'm definitely going to give him a 5-star for Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, because it's the best picture book I've read in the past year. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is great. We both read it at the same time, and it was so fun. So fun.
And even Batman's hilarious in it, and I'm okay with it. Normally whenever Batman makes jokes, I'm not okay with it, but Matt Fraction made me okay with it. For him and Jimmy Olsen getting a prank war together, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. It was funny.
Did he do was it in Detective 1027, did he do the Batman story where it was like Batman's was his birthday or something?
No, it's whenever he goes to Gorilla City and he gets married, and he gets that red vomitous cat from Green Lantern. I forget what the cat's name.
Yeah, Dexter.
Yeah, he pops up throughout the run.
Oh, that was Daxstar?
Yeah.
That cat's blue.
Didn't the red vomit kind of clue you into that?
But Daxtar's red.
No, Dexter's blue. He's a Red Lantern, but he's a blue cat. And
wait a minute. What?
And he likes lasagna.
All right. Well, Jess pulled up some research. Let's go on to the final 2. We're kind of going long on the 2 tonight, so thanks guys for staying with us.
You're right. He's blue, but with a Red Lantern suit on. Okay, so I see now that you're right.
He's so cute.
He vomits on a lot of people in Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, he does.
I might have okay with that, but if you throw up in Chainsaw Man, it's disgusting.
Well, there was no throwing up in each other's mouths.
That
something.
panel posted on the group was definitely grossed me out.
Taylor sent that to me for some reason.
Because I wanted you to be grossed out too.
You succeeded.
I didn't want to experience it myself.
All right, Lou, what's next?
What are last categories?
Book of the year and the Golden Omni are the last 2 categories. So our book of the year is our favorite comic that we read this year, what we thought was the best, and then we move on to the Golden Omni, which is the best collected edition. So book of the year for me, Thor by Donny Cates. Right from the get-go, he just takes the ball running from Jason Aaron's run, and he is not playing. What he does with Galactus, Thor, and that whole King in Black that he's tying in as well, perfect. It's great. And now he's brought back the concept of Donald Blake, and he's pulling it off, and it's amazing. And I can't get enough of Thor. I
need
love
to
it.
catch up to that book, dude. I need to catch up.
Oh, our friend Stefan Sejic is in the chat. Yes,
Hey.
This is a Red Lantern that is Daxstar from the Red Lantern run. There we go. There he is. I forget who's the main Red Lantern guy.
Atrocitus.
Atrocitus. Yeah, it's his cat.
There was a one-shot issue that told his backstory that was
Yeah.
actually really good.
It was pretty sad. It was pretty
Yeah.
sad about his owner and everything. Yeah. All right. So I don't want to copy off of Lou and say Thor. That's definitely. I would choose Thor, but since Lou did, I'm going to go back and I want to step over. And even though we do have the Golden Kirkman award, I did heavily love Firepower by Robert Kirkman this year.
Mm.
It's a great fun story. If you like, like the Immortal Iron Fist, kind of, going up to the mountains to learn, the best martial arts there is, and it's a little bit of fire elements in there, kind of like Avatar, bending fire, having control over fire. And then you get to see this character grow up and become a father and become a middle-aged man and still having to deal with the things that happen when he went up to those mountains and the fights he had to fight and the war he had to participate in. Now come back at him at an adult age. Great stuff. Chris Samney is on the art. That says it all. That makes that book the book of the year. Kirkman's doing great. I mean, it's no Invincible, but I'm buying a ticket for the ride of the Chris Samney art for Firepower. He is a master storyteller. He does the best things. Not many people can pull off that like negative lighting kind of story element, but when he was doing that way back when he was doing those, Jess, you might have one of those little hardcover crime novels. He did one with Brian
Area
Aswell.
10.
Yeah, great stuff from there. And moved up with that cool kind of art style in Daredevil, and he just kind of rode the wave with Mark Waid all the way, and now he's here with Robert Kirkman doing Firepower, and it is the top-notch book out there right now besides Thor.
Yeah, this is all black and white.
Yeah, look at that. That's early stuff. Like,
He did an arc with Greg Rucka on Queen and Country that was great too.
Yes,
In
he
black
did.
and white.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Samney and Mark Waid need to do Superman together. That would be a fantastic combo for Superman.
Jess, can you pull up the first page of that book? I think it's the first page.
Don't toy with my emotions, Taylor. Oh my God.
As soon as I say that, Bendis is going to announce I'm going to do 10 more years on Superman.
You shut your whore mouth.
Who page?
I think he did another book too. He did another one where the first page is like somebody getting shot in the face.
Oh.
That's one where they screw things into people's head, right? Be like lobotomy type stuff.
Yeah, that's what the
We
cover is.
need to do those books for Crime Corner sometime soon, Jess.
Yeah, these are all really good. I liked all of them. I'm happy to reread these.
Ryley.
Oh man. So best book, and are we talking about general? Because there's a lot of stuff that I read this year that was not from this year, right?
Preferably this year, but I don't think it has to be. I mean, we've said some stuff that hasn't come out this year.
Okay, because one, let's say a new to me read. The best thing that was new to me, and I'm sounding like a broken record, so Jess is going to walk away at this point, is another manga. To Your Eternity, which is by the same creator, Yoshitoki Oima, as the series A Silent Voice, which is a fantastic series. It's one of my top 10 concluded manga of all time. But To Your Eternity is basically the story of an immortal being who is, at the beginning of the series, just a ball of light, and eventually evolves and takes on different forms physically, including the form of a wolf and the form of a young man, and then a form of a different young man, a young girl, and a woman, and all this. So like, as they go through life, they can take on the physical form of people that they meet, that they come into contact with, or other living things that they come into contact with. And it's a fun concept, but then what really makes this series shine is the fact that the creator is really focusing on the concept of loss and how loss impacts you personally. And being that you're this immortal person that is the main character, who forms these deep and powerful attachments to people throughout their immortal life, they're constantly experiencing loss, of their friends dying, their people who become their family dying. And it's something that's so powerful for anyone who's experienced any sort of loss, losing a friend or a loved one or a family member. The things that this character, Fushi is the name that they give it, winds up going through. And it was something that was so powerful. And it's still ongoing right now. So I guess it could count as a 2020 series anyway. But it was something that I read early on in the pandemic, and it really moved me in a lot of ways. I was very satisfied with this series, and made me kind of revisit my own feelings on loss that I've experienced and stuff. And it's very powerful. It's very much a gut punch. And it's one of those series. It's kind of like when you're reading a series like Ecstatics, where you know everyone's not going to make it out. Mm-hmm. It's the same feeling you get when you're reading this, and you're like, after the first couple of arcs, when you realize like every person that you meet is going to wind up not being there eventually, it hurts so bad because you get attached to these characters and then they're taken away from you, and it hurts, but it's such a visceral feeling that I can't help but not highlight it.
Jess.
This book came out early in 2020. It was my book of the year when I read it. Nothing's beaten it since then, except it's close. Superman Smashes the Klan is close to it. But it is the original acetate cover, Gabe. This is definitely an acetate cover. Harleen.
Oh, wow.
And the writer and artist is in the chat too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Just trying to get some favor here.
Jess is getting the brownie.
We've already had him on the show, so it's okay. He's already been interviewed by us. But the art is amazing. Starting off, I mean, it's incredible art about Harleen and Dr. Harleen. Sorry, but this is the year, and it will be for 2020. But it is. We've gone over this about how it is such an in-depth character study of Dr. Harleen Quinzel and what leads her up to her background before she becomes Harley Quinn. And it is a remarkable character study of what leads her to be what she becomes. And I found it, not only is it compelling, but it seems to be the most likely backstory possible of her that isn't cartoony at all. It seems it makes sense if you get my meaning. Like it takes her right up to her meeting with first meeting and things with the Joker and her feelings for him as they develop, but it's really more about two broken people meeting each other and what it is about them inside each other that attracts them to each other. She was quite, she was so such a good student and did so well in all her field that there was a lot of jealousy, and she was always feeling alone, and she definitely it did a great job of telling her backstory in a way that no book this year has topped, in my opinion. I still think this is the book of the year for me.
Well said. Great stuff, man. Taylor.
I already said Cruel Summer by Ed Brubaker. It's chronologically, it's not the final book in the criminal universe, but it's a great capstone to the series. If they never did any more, that's the perfect ending. It's an amazing run of issues. I've already talked about Jimmy Olsen. Another story I want to highlight from the Black Hammer World of Black Hammer Library Edition is Dr. Andromeda. That book made me weep. I never cried that hard at a comic. As a father to a son, that final moment made me weep. It was a fantastic story. Jeff Lemire, everyone knows he's a fantastic writer. That's one of his most underappreciated books. I know Black Hammer isn't, but that particular story from the world of Black Hammer, I don't really hear people talk about it. I think it's the best thing he's done in the Black Hammer universe and overall.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Is Ryley done for the night? You guys done?
I got to get them pretty soon, too. I have dinner waiting for me. It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we're running late. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Final one, the Golden Omni. So best collected edition.
Before the Golden Omni, let's talk about InStockTrades.com, where you can get your collected edition, up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. There's always a $50 gift certificate provided by InStock Trades at the end of every month, provided to us to give to you out there. And $50 or more in an order gets you free shipping, which is going to be important this first week of January. Fabulous customer service, fabulous packaging. That's InStockTrades.com, which leads us to Best Collected Edition.
All right, I'm not participating in this because I'm digital, so I'm just going to pass it to you. Gabe, what's your best collected edition of the year?
Best collected edition, it made me come back, and I made a YouTube video on it, and that is the Jack Kirby's Fourth World Absolute.
Beautiful.
The greatest, most beautiful put together book inside and out. The inside book is fantastic. The outside slipcase, you've never seen it before, where they have that whole board into it, so you can see Darkseid's face as you slide the book out. Wonderfully put together. It's the absolute, no pun intended, best representation of Jack Kirby's work there's ever been. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a volume 2 come out yet. Thanks, DC.
Surprise.
Yeah,
They still have Scott Snyder Batman Omnibus Volume 2. What in the world is wrong with you, DC?
Yeah, don't orphan this. We gotta have that Jack Kirby Fourth World Absolute. That thing.
I mean, DC loves Batman, so they love orphans, I guess.
But Gabe, rest assured, you will get another edition of Watchmen sometime this year. So there's that.
They gotta put it out, man. They have to. You can't just leave us hanging on that book.
All right, that was a beautiful book. Dude, that was the book. I don't even do physical books anymore, and I almost dipped on that because that was
it's great to have. I wish it wasn't packed up. I show it to everybody who hasn't seen it. You can look at my video. Like I said, Jess came back to jack up a book with root beer. I came back to sing the praises of that Fourth World Absolute. No root beer, just love and hugs.
All right, Jess, what's your book collected edition of the year, man?
I didn't think this book would ever come out, even the day that it was supposedly in my house. I still didn't think it was going to come out. It's The Spectre.
Yes.
It was perfectly. I can't explain it. Not only is there a table of contents, but they have page numbers, and there are page numbers in the book. It collects great Spectre stories that were well written in the 60s and 70s, and they still hold up. There's no recoloring or re-inking or redrawing. I think this book could appeal to a lot of people currently. The 60s issues that came out, were like some of my favorite books. This showcased one. These are classic DC covers from the 60s with the go-go checks on top. And the stories, they were 60s stories, but with great art. And the Spectre was the spirit of vengeance, and he did a really good job. And it includes Michael Fleischer's run, which was so controversial because of the violence in it. It only lasted about 10 issues. Artwork by Jim Aparo. I think the reason it didn't get censored back then was because although there was a lot of violence in it, there was no blood. Like somebody got cut in half with scissors, a giant pair of scissors, but there was no blood shown. And so I think that's how it got past the comic code. But the Jim, it's all fantastic art, from Neil Adams to Jim Aparo, Murphy Anderson. This thing has fantastic art all the way through. There was no way I thought DC would let a book like this get printed. I was happily wrong. This was a blast for me to read. It not only from a nostalgia standpoint, but from a good book standpoint. It was really, really well done as a collected edition.
Good stuff, man. Taylor, what's your book of the year? Your collected edition of the year?
I'll keep being a broken record. Talk about Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips some more. This is Criminal Volume 3, which Jess doesn't have yet, so I'm going to make him feel jealous. This beautiful wraparound cover is phenomenal. It's like the interior page right here. It's just amazing. And I actually there's 2 reprints coming out next year, the first 2 volumes. I got print of Volume 1 signed by Sean Phillips.
Nice.
And it's awesome.
That's beautiful.
Is it on your wall yet?
Other people besides Sean Phillips and Ed Brubaker.
Have you hung that on your wall yet?
Yeah, I just took it off real quick.
No, you didn't. It's on the floor.
No, I took it off to show you guys. I'm not Tyler Blunt.
Show me the nail on the wall.
You can't see it from over here. My wife's Mac. Hi, Mac.
All right, guys. So that closes it out. That was the end, unless Ryley decides to pop back in. So, Jess, let's close it out, man.
You can find me, Omnidog, on Omnidog's Vault on YouTube and on Instagram, Omnidogs_Vault. Tomorrow, I'm going to be maybe doing a Super Friends chat with my former friends. And then at 7 o'clock is Omnidog and Omnicat's 5 feel-good books of 2020 and 5 feel-good books of all time. So if you want to feel good, watch us tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Omnicat. She knows what's what.
Gabe?
You guys can find me at Gabe Loves 90s Comics on Instagram. And you can also follow Omnibroslive on Instagram as well.
Taylor?
You can find me on this guy's channel. This upcoming Friday, we're reminding Tyler every day we're doing a Star Wars spotlight on Marvel Star Wars. And then we're also doing Batter Days next Saturday as well.
Nice, man. All right, and you can find my archive of old books at Comics Guide 101 on old videos at Comics Guide 101 on YouTube. There's a lot of old stuff on there. Some of it's outdated, some of it's current. You can check that out. Twitter is Comics Guide 101 for me. You can find me there. And yeah, from all of us here, have a good night, everybody.
Peace and love. Peace and love.